Hello everyone, my name is Abigail Jones, and for my RI research project, I will be showcasing 3 original compositions in 3 different jazz styles. These pieces, collectively titled The Power Trio, are inspired by events in my own life. Also, this project is part of my fulfillment for my bachelor's degree in commercial music. So, without further ado, let's do this! First, I'm going to take a quick deep dive into the process of creating these compositions. It has been such an incredible journey seeing these pieces come to life. I had started working on them years ago as voice memos on my phone in a series of drafts. When I heard that the RI research project was coming up during my senior year of college, I knew that I wanted to feature these compositions and see how they would be expanded within different ensembles. I used Sibelius as my main software to compose all 3 of my compositions. The first track is called Power, a Latin jazz piece that contains a lot of samba and salsa elements. When composing this composition, I wanted it to be very lively, energetic, powerful, and danceable. There's lots of syncopation, Latin rhythms, Latin grooves, and ostinatos. Power was influenced by Samba Temperado by Yuji Ono, Mi Tierra by Gloria Estefan, and A la hora que me llamen voy by Jose Alberto El Canario. My second track, Jekyll and Hyde, is a big band swing piece. As the title suggests, I wanted to demonstrate 2 different sides of the character. The best way to pull that off was to have a Jekyll side in a major key and a Hyde side in a minor key that are both relative to each other. Hence, D major represents Dr. Jekyll and B minor represents Mr. Hyde. Furthermore, Jekyll and Hyde was heavily inspired by the Pink Panther theme by Henry Mancini. My third track is called Fake Face, and it is a 12-bar blues. Fake Face is quite mysterious in nature and is a follow-up to the Jekyll and Hyde character. It also features chromaticism, a walking bass line, call and response patterns, syncopation, repetition, a slide, extended chords, and chordal voicing. This composition was influenced by Cool Struttin' by Sonny Clark and I Put a Spell on You by Screaming Jay Hawkins. Overall, as mentioned before, my compositions allude to significant events in my life. The main message is about harnessing your own power and not letting anyone take it away. It is important to not only reclaim your power, but also avoid giving power to things that drain you or hold you back. Know that you can rise above and realize the things that you can control. My hope is to take these tracks and expand it into an album to further share my story and my music. Thanks for tuning in to my research project and take care.
Hey, this is Brian and you're watching Disney Channel. This is my senior research project. This presentation and the project in itself is done in partial fulfillment for my requirements for my Bachelor of Music degree. Before we go any further, I just want to give a special thanks. Oh crap, wrong picture. I just want to give a special shout out to Professor Sanchez and Professor Beltrucchi, who you can see in this slide if you haven't seen them before. This is them outside of their offices, and they are great teachers, great friends, and great musicians. So in all seriousness, thank you for all the support, and I hope you enjoy this, guys. The idea with all of these tracks was to approach them differently in terms of production, songwriting, recording, and overall artistry. The track on the left, titled Oat Milk Chai Latte, was extremely fun to make in a team environment and was done almost entirely in Pro Tools as well as almost entirely acoustic, which was very different for me being like a bedroom producer kind of guy. So working on this song taught me a lot about committing to a sound a lot quicker in the process. This was extremely helpful, not just for this track, but for the one coming up too, because I was able to focus so much more on making music and having a fun experience with my friends, which reminds me of why I started it in the first place. So let's hear it.
And I'm crying, begging for you, looking back on the way we were, missing out on all of you. Without you, I'm left with half of my life. And I'm left to walk my own road, and I'm all alone.
If you liked it, I strongly suggest checking out the compilation album, and I just want to say thank you again to my friends, because had I not put myself out of my comfort zone and trusted them and their judgment, I don't feel like I would have learned as much as I did in that process. Even though the next track was done completely in the box and in my laptop on Logic, I still feel like I was able to take some of the knowledge I learned from the first track and put it in here. Since I was a lot more focused on the context and overall mood of the song, rather than if every sound was perfect, I was able to achieve a sense of depth in this particular track that I hadn't really done before and I was struggling to do prior. Nonetheless, this is one of my favorite songs, and I'm really glad that I've reached a point in my musicianship where I can do a good cover of Circle, so I hope you like it too.
I couldn't be there, even when I tried. You don't believe it. We do this every time. Seasons change and our love went cold. Feed the flame 'cause we can't let it go. Run away, but we're running in circles. Run away, I dare you to do something. I'm waiting on you again, so I don't take the blame. Run away, but we're running in circles. Run away, run away, run away.
Well, that'll be all for me.
Hello, my name is L.L.C, and this is my research project. Starting off with a personal background, I am a violinist. I have been playing for over a decade now. When it comes to composing music, I'm inspired by video games, anime, art, movies, and TV shows. My main goal in the musical aspect is to keep working and create music that we can all resonate with on any emotional level. That is the one thing that brings me so much joy. For this research project, it consisted of weekly meetings, mock-ups, demos, cheers, and many hours of composing and mixing. My project consists of 3 original works entitled Daylight, Living Nightmare, and Ethereal Dreamscape. As you're hearing right now, this is my first movement, Daylight. It is an orchestral piece featuring strings, solo flute, koto, and harp. This movement takes major influence from Genshin Impact, specifically in the nation Inazuma. This movement represents the joy of life, the happy moments that we get to experience and remember. Moving on, we have our second movement, Living Nightmare. This is a full symphonic orchestra piece that is completely different from the first movement. It is intense with ostinato lines of the strings. It takes influence from horror games and boss battles. You can hear that it starts to gather that sense of intensity. And this movement represents the challenges that we face in life, whether it is escaping our fears, escaping our mind, or just running away from our problems, our issues, and trying to overcome them. For the final movement, we have Ethereal Dreamscape. This is a string orchestra piece written for the remembrance of the many memories that we want to keep, whether it is sorrow, happiness, or anger. This takes major inspiration of the idea of dreams from the anime Demon Slayer, where they go into their soul, which is basically a dreamscape, and it is different for every single person. So in this case, I was portraying the fact that whenever you listen to this movement, it's going to be a different feeling for you than it is for another person that is listening to it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. It has been an honor working with everyone at FAU.
Hi, my name is Sienna Ryan, a senior in tech at FAU. My project explores 3 different methods of song creation. Let's dive in. Again, I'll be exploring different methods on how to create a song, from a songwriter to a producer to a facilitator. I'll also show you some highlights from my first 2 tracks and how I went from this to something I can write home about. The title of my first track is called Message, a rock ballad. I wrote the lyrics and arranged the parts myself, then had you guys come into the studio to record each part. This method is easiest for me since it gives me complete control of the song. This method is also best for radio hits and ballads since it's artist-centric. I'll play a snippet of the first song. Hope you like it.
'Cause oh, I've been where you have, how I've gone mad over my poor soul. I ran out of time, 10 into 9, 0 turned me in a stone. Do not ever take me, the police will change me, the things they say aren't true. But from the bottom of my heart, this is meant to be your song, this is my message to you.
The title of my second track is called Me and Hers. I used Apple Loops on Logic Pro to create my soundscape and my beat, and had an FAU student surround her lyrics around the beat. This is the best method if you're on a budget, but I felt least confident since I tend to work with live tracks the most. I felt like both of them during the process, if I'm being honest. I actually ended up with an R&B track with a rap feature. Take a listen.
You're never at home. She's always alone, 'cause now you're hers, but in the end I'll make you mine. Tell me what you wanna do, blowing up your line, don't know what I'm going through. Yeah, tell me what you wanna do, me or her, you got me running on a loop. Yeah, tell me what you wanna do, I'm blowing up your line, don't know what I'm going through. Yeah, you tell me what you wanna do, me or her, you got me running on a loop.
The title of my final track is Bipolar. Here, I asked students from the music program to create something from a lead sheet and song structure and recorded the results. This method is best for jam sessions and brainstorming, but you have to keep an open mind. By keeping this in mind, I ended up with a swing, rock, ballad mix, but I encourage you to come to a more in-depth discussion at the end of the semester to hear the song. There are 3 things I learned throughout my process. As a writer, being brave enough to express myself. As a composer, to step out of my comfort zone more often. And as a producer, I learned that it will always be more fun with more musicians like you guys by my side. At the end of the day, we're music lovers first. I hope I've encouraged you all to explore the world of songwriting, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Have a good one, guys.
Hi, my name is Judith Gonzalez. I'm a commercial music business major, and I'll be talking about Radio Corporation of America's history, or RCA's history. To begin with, they were established in 1919, but before this they were known as American Marsoni. On behalf of the U.S. Navy, General Electric bought out American Marsoni to create an all-American radio station, thus RCA being founded. The 1920s and 30s saw a lot of major developments. Now, the few I'm going to point out are the radio music box invention and the National Broadcasting Company being established and having 2 channels, red for entertainment and blue for political. And around this time, they also had their own orchestras. The NBC Symphony Orchestra, which performed weekly live, and the RCA Victor Symphony Orchestra, which recorded vinyls that they sold. The 1940s also had World War II beginning, and David Sarnoff, the president of RCA, sent President Roosevelt a message saying that RCA's facilities are at his service. This meant that a lot of the repair people from RCA were sent to the battlefield to repair any radios that they needed for war. The 1950s and 60s saw a lot of innovation. We had the colored television being massly produced. We had RCA helping the U.S. Navy on missile projects. We had RCA helping NASA on the SCORE project and on the Ranger 7's camera. Oh no. And they also had Label X announced and soon revealed to be Groove, an R&B style record label, and Studio A and B becoming a real thing. Now, Studio B came before Studio A, and when Studio A opened, Studio B closed. Sounds familiar? The 1970 and 90 didn't have much, but I want to point out that this is their mascot, Nipper, and he got a friend named Chipper to represent the new era of technology. I'm not going to go into much depth on this portion, but simply put, Sony ends up buying RCA, and that's all you need to know from that point. Now today, RCA, other than being in America, is in the UK, Germany, France, and now more currently in Greater China. Now, some people from China that they are working with are K-pop artist Jackson Wang and Ailin, a Taiwanese singer who's won 5 Golden Melody Awards. Think of them as the Asian Grammys. Now, some famous artists that are signed currently with RCA are Becky G, Britney Spears, A$AP Rocky, and my personal favorite, a K-pop group named ATEEZ. So, I thank you for listening. Have a great day. Bye.
Hello, my name is Nicolas Gomez and the title of my research is Making Songs Come to Life. It originally started off with the idea of adding texture to songs, but then I realized that having the rhythm section down was the most difficult part of the whole process. And I ended up changing the title to Making Songs Come to Life just because it made more sense. And I based it on 3 songs that I wrote a couple of years ago: Ojos de Cristal, Rosas y Girasol. And now I'm gonna just tell you about the whole process. So the first and the most important thing I wanted to add was the drums, just because they are the driving force of the song. So what was challenging about adding percussion, in this case drums, it's that I originally wrote the songs on my acoustic guitar, so adding percussion was always difficult because I had trouble getting the feel of the song just right, you know? I could never get it to like match the feel that I was going for. And after arranging the parts with the drummer, shout out to Jake, well, we went to the studio and over 3 sessions we were able to record all the 3 songs. So going over like all the different parts and then comping all the different takes together was one of the hardest things in the whole editing process of the song. Because, you know, when you comp drums, you have to keep in mind the intensity, especially like the cymbals. You don't want the shimmery sound of the cymbals to cut off from one take to another. So, you know, it's something that you have to keep in mind. After the drums, I added acoustic guitar to all the tracks, which was quite simple because it was the original foundation of the song. Tone-wise, I wanted to get a lot of warmth. So for one of the songs, what I did, I used 2 Royer mics and I mic'd the guitar in MS to get the stereo image of the instrument, and that was for Ojos de Cristal. For the other 2 songs, I mic'd the guitar differently. I used one small diaphragm condenser and one Royer to get the best of both worlds by blending the 2 microphones. So, you know, if I was strumming, I would mostly use the Royer, and then finger picking, I would use the small diaphragm condenser. For the bass, what I wanted to also do in this project was being able to, you know, work at the studio and then work at home. And even if I had to record some instruments at home, I was able to. So for bass, what I did, I just recorded straight into my audio interface. So after having the rhythm section down, I wanted to focus on adding texture to songs. So for one of them, I used different guitars and layered them with different effects and reverb. On the other song, I focused a lot on reversing sound and musical ideas, which was pretty fun. And the last one, I orchestrated a small string section consisting of viola and violin, and I didn't add cello because I already had bass. And for that song, I also added a French horn solo, which was pretty fun to mic up. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.
Hi guys, it's Carrie. I'll be showing you guys a behind the scenes of my Foley art and sound design project. With a little twist, make it percussion. Typically in Foley art, you would usually use random objects, but as a percussionist, I see that as making music. Anything you can hit is automatically percussion. For this project, I wanted to use as many percussion instruments as I could to enhance the sound effects. So I went ahead and borrowed a couple things from Professor Nichols. Because of the time limit that I have, I'm not able to show you guys every single thing I did, so I'm hoping to provide you the best experience. In total, I did 3 scenes, 2 movie scenes and 1 video game scene. For the movie scenes, I'll be performing Foley, which is recording sound effects while synchronizing with the moving picture, and I'll be doing sound design for the video game scene. The first scene is Moana. I needed chicken sounds, so I made a handmade cuica, which is a Brazilian drum that produces a high-pitched squeak. In the next clip, I used a box drum for impact. Then an ocean drum, and splashes of water. After pitch shifting the chicken, this is the final mix. Next is Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm using a metal plate to replicate a ship bell. Synchronize some footsteps. A symbol for swords and anvils. And some chains. Here's the second video. And lastly, Stardew Valley. Out of all the scenes, I think this one was my favorite. This was more focused on sound design. You can record a bunch of random sounds and mix them together to make a whole new sound, and you can just loop it. That's how most video game soundtracks are. And here is the final scene. Now I know you were probably forced to watch this video, but I really hope I made it worth your while. I'm over the time limit. Bye!
Hi everyone, my name is Amelia Gamera Cruz, and for my senior project, I studied the musical production of Billie Eilish's music. In order to capture the essence of her music, I needed to understand who was behind the screen, her brother Phineas, who is also her musical producer. For this, I focused on three fundamentals: synthesizers, simple instrumentation, and vocals. To understand synthesizers, you need to know two things: LFOs and envelopes. Both of these things don't do anything unless you've told them to, so you have to program them. LFO stands for low frequency oscillator. This is the thing that brings movement to your sound. The next thing is envelope. In an envelope, you need to know ADSR. A stands for attack. This is the speed from silence to sound. D stands for decay. How long does it take to reach the sustain volume? Sustain is the volume that the note is held. Release is the time it takes for the sound to die after you release your finger from the key. After analyzing her music, they don't use many instruments. I used a live bass, MIDI drums, which I created my own drum kit using samples from Splice like this, acoustic guitar. For my synths, I used a free VST called Vital to recreate this sound. And vocals. One thing Phineas and Billie have mastered is vocal production. Every song is essentially a high-budget ASMR session where she records very closely to the microphone and sings very softly. In the studio, it was important to use a pop filter to prevent any unwanted sibilants entering the recordings. Often her breathing will be left in the songs and used as a creative decision where they'll enhance it with things such as reverb and decay. Another thing that was really important to get right was layers, layers, and more layers. Like this.
But you got no job. You ain't nothing but a lost cause.
Thank you so much for listening to my project. Go out there, get creative, and sing really close to your microphone. Bye.
The Tower. The genre of this EP is known as classical crossover. Classical crossover is a genre that utilizes the power of both digital and traditional orchestral sounds. The Tower. The Tower, number 16, is a major arcana tarot card. The existence of this card dates back to the 15th century. The image on the card depicts a strong tower being struck by different natural disasters such as lightning, fire, and flooding. If you happen to pull this card during a tarot reading, it is said that great trial and tribulation is near. Be on guard, because once the first tragedy strikes, the next is just around the corner. Nodus Tollens. The first track is titled Nodus Tollens. This emotion is known as the realization that the plot of your life doesn't make sense to you anymore. Sometimes we get comfortable in a routine. Every once in a while there will be a small adjustment. Nodus Tollens is about not just that routine, but about how everyone you knew, everything you've seen, and everywhere you've gone is no longer what you thought it once was. The second track is titled L'appel du vide. This is a French term for the impulse known as the call of the void. Imagine you are standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean. You see the waves crashing against the rocks at the bottom of the cliff and you want to jump. Despite the danger of such actions, you feel pulled by some unknown force. Sonder. Sonder is the realization that every being on this planet has just as much of a complex and confusing existence as your own. Nobody knows what a day in your shoes is like, but you've never walked a day in anyone else's shoes either. Somewhere, someone is experiencing your same joy and turmoil, even though the experiences from which those emotions are provoked are different.
My name is Devon, and I'm talking about my senior project. My project is to make 3 songs because I'd like to become a super producer, which is, to me, somebody who can contribute to a song at any step of the creative process. People like Pharrell, D'Angelo, Kanye, I look up to them because they can do many things, not just make beats. I started out as a producer in my bedroom making hip-hop beats, trap beats, but when I came to FAU, I really wanted to improve on my skill set. Last semester, one day Professor Sanchez asked us to rank or assess ourselves based on how good we thought we were at mixing, producing, singing, writing, all those things. And the hope was that when we look at the same assessment later on, we'll have gotten better. So my project is all about just improving on all those fronts. So I'm making 3 songs, as I said, and before this school, I never wrote a song in my life. I only make beats, which is like a very different skill set. I feel like most producers can't write, they can't sing, they just make beats in their bedroom. But I wanted to be a real artist, so I chose to make these songs, and it was a very scary process. The first one is a song called People Say that's already out, and that was my first ever time writing a song. It was very daunting for me, but to get it started, I did something that was familiar. Just make a beat, produce something. So I got a sample, I chopped it up, and I just found some melodies over that, and the chords that I made from chopping up the sample became the chords for People Say. After I got some melodies, I wrote to them based on something I was going through, and the song was born. And it came out pretty well. That song, I wrote it, produced it, sang on it, played saxophone on it. I recorded it, I mixed it, all that. A lot of work, but definitely I came out on the other side stronger. So this semester, I'm doing 2 more songs. One of them is called Tomorrow. That one I'm singing on by myself, and I wrote the whole thing by myself too. There's no co-writing on that one. And I'm also producing it, mixing it, etc. The last song It's called Can't Walk Away, and that one I'm not singing on that one at all. My friend Karina's gonna sing on that, and I'm taking more of the backseat producer role. So I'm still writing it. I still wrote it. I made the chords up. I'm still gonna mix it and record it. That one is what I was playing earlier on. It's pretty much done as well. And yeah, by the end of this, I just hope to improve on all fronts creatively. And it's definitely been very tough. A lot of sleepless nights, late night sessions, but definitely it's been very, very rewarding. And I'm just very glad that I get to do this and share the journey with you guys. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
The recording process of improvised music by Bruno Camarache. So this is a little overview of my project. A couple of years ago, the whole idea for the project came to me. I was listening to Lush Life by John Coltrane. It's partially a trio album, and I really liked the aesthetics of that sound. I thought that each instrument had a very distinct role in filling in their sonic space in the music, and in a jazz setting, the musicians get to play with that role and like regulate how much they add and how much they hold back. So I recorded a saxophone trio in 3 different scenarios, left to right, first University Theater, then Studio A in the live room, and then I had the musicians isolated in different rooms, so the CME room, the live room, and the control room. I focus on 3 main points for the project. Number 1 being the musician's experience. So their experience in each scenario has a big impact on the way they perform and how they interact with each other. And that can be anything from like mics like being in between them, and like that little like obstacle can be just like one more factor in the way they're playing and how they perform, or any small distraction, or maybe they're not used to playing with headphones, anything like that, you know. Then 2 is kind of goes in hand with 1, but it's the performance, and this is not really from the musician's perspective. It's more of like a third-person perspective, I'd say. So which scenario rendered the best performance, and not necessarily the performance with the least mistakes. I mean, what led to more interesting solos, more interaction between the musicians, and more organic decisions made by the musicians. So like, for example, on the second scenario, in Studio A, in the live room, during one of the songs they played, all 3 musicians agreed to go into double time, and this wasn't planned. It's just what the music called for, and they all looked at each other and decided on it. And so that's an example for that. And then 3, the track. So this is more of a technical point of view, I guess. So which scenario rendered the cleanest tracks?
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. My name is John Pedraza. I was trying to talk a little bit about my research project. I am looking to do some live production, live audio after I graduate. And so I was looking for how to turn that into a research project that requires 3 audio files as the results. And so I ended up working with the CME ensemble, commercial music ensemble, last semester. And so I recorded them live. I worked with Professor Baltrucki in the live sound reinforcement class and recorded them live, brought some extra mics in, and just was more intentional with miking up the drums and all the guitars. And then I had that same group about a week and a half after their live performance last semester. I had the same group in the studio. And so had them play the same songs. And I'm using Next Lifetime by Erykah Badu. And so I took the live recording, mixed that, had the studio session, recorded that, and it's more like a live studio session feel. And then I'm taking those drums and guitars from that session and redoing the vocals and working it, making it a little more perfected and a little more controlled environment while still keeping the live feel from that song. And so those will be my 3 tracks: the fully live studio session and more controlled environment. And really something that I wanted to push myself with is I just recently bought the Logic student pricing. And so I, instead of using Pro Tools, which I've done all of my time here at FAU, I have been just recording and mixing in Logic, which is a little inconvenient and just getting used to it. I honestly just don't want to pay for a Pro Tools subscription if I'm going to be using it once every 3 months. And so I have the one-time purchase with the Logic pricing. And so converting all my plugins, learning that program, and just getting used to how that program looks and feels. So I am finishing up recording within the next week or so, and I'll definitely be done with mixing by the time it needs to be done.
Hi, my name is Tanner Collins, and my senior project is In the Box versus live recordings. So I've referred to In the Box as using amp sims and MIDI drums to record a song. Amp sims simulate the sound of a guitar and bass amp and the speaker using impulse responses. Essentially, it imitates the frequency response of a speaker and a microphone. Using amp sims allows you to get mix-ready tones within seconds, and you could also change your tone after you recorded it. However, some drawbacks of using amp sims is you lose the dynamics that you would usually get from a tube amp, and amp sims use a lot of CPU, which can make your session crash once you start layering a bunch of guitars. MIDI drums are great because you can get mix-ready sounds in seconds. It will always be on time, and you can change the parts at any time. However, some of the drawbacks of MIDI drums is the learning curve on how to make the drum sound real and sound like a human, and you run the risk of using the same sounds as anyone else who bought the same sample pack. Live recording, as you all know, is about recording real guitar and bass amps and recording the live drums. If it's done correctly, live recordings will capture the energy and feel of a performance. You'll get to hear all the dynamics and unique characteristics of each performer and their tones. However, many different variables go into live recording, such as the room you're in, the mics you're using, where you put the mics, the amps, the drums, it goes on and on. Not only do you need a good chunk of money to make all of this happen, but you also need the knowledge and experience to do it properly, and more time to set up and break down. Then after all that is done, it's even harder to mix it, so you need more expertise or someone who knows what they're doing. So for my tracks, I did the same original song.
Pushing myself over the edge into oblivion. Killing myself over some shit that doesn't matter.